Thank you everybody for joining us today. If you haven't met me before, my name is Connolly and I'm an Agile Delivery Manager from FutureGov, and I've had the delight in supporting the team on this project. Today I'm going to welcome you and give you a little introduction into my perspective on the project. If you have been to one of our website show and tells before, you know that we'll take turns to introduce the team behind the work, and it's a chance for us to share our thoughts and learnings. Last time, you might remember if you were here, Chris, our lead designer, spoke about his new puppy and he unveiled the homepage designs. And so today it's my turn, and it's a big celebration today, as today officially marks the public beta site launch. Feel free to silent clap if you're on mute. What does that mean? I'm not going to go into too much detail because Chris is going to tell you a bit more about that once we get further into the show and tell. But I just wanted to quickly do a massive shout out to everyone that has helped to get the beta site into where it is today. And not just one site, two sites, one for the West and one for the North. It is still just the beginning, and we have another 3 weeks to the day, to vesting day, and that's the official website launch. And it's important to note that even though we're celebrating a mini milestone today, we will be announcing the public beta launch to the residents on Monday. So we're going to be encouraging them to have a sneak peek and give feedback, but you get a little bit of a soft launch on the sites today. You might be wondering how we've managed to work together in such a blended fashion in a remote pandemic. You might think to yourself, how have they done it? How have they managed to work so cohesively together, even though technically they all come from 8 different local authorities, and then you've got FutureGov plus decent members? Well, in my intro, I hope to share some insight into the behind the scenes. So from day one, what you can see on the screen, we really try to promote a single team spirit. So no matter what our email signatures were, it was now from September when we joined, we were a blended team and we had a shared vision, and it was not to get one but 2 websites tested, built and designed and have that ready for launch on vesting day on April 1st. In our core team kickoff, FutureGov shared the principles on how we would like to work together as a team, and they're there on the screen. And I'm very proud of all of the team members who haven't worked in an agile project methodology before, and they welcomed the ceremonies and rituals that came with it. And something you may have heard, if you've heard of this agile project methodology, is these new roles and titles. So as I mentioned, I work with FutureGov and I'm a senior delivery manager or an agile delivery manager. And sometimes with agile, you get different labels. One of those labels is something called a Scrum Master or an Agile Coach. And this is one of the many hats I guess I play on the project. Without going in too deep, to anyone that's going, what is a Scrum Master? What an odd name. Let's just imagine that Scrum represents the team. So just like a rugby team or a rugby scrum. And this slide shows a few potential misconceptions of the stances of a Scrum Master. And the next slide, I guess, shows what we aim to be. So hoping the core team that are on the call have seen a little bit of each of these attributes in the way that we work together. One thing that we've worked really hard on is the agile mindset. And so this is a very, very big, very short intro into what the agile mindset is. And one of the key things we've tried to do is try to make this resonate with some of you listening in today. So these are some of the statements that you may have heard when working with projects, whether it be software or otherwise working within the services. So we need to make progress. We need to work harder. We need to get more organized. We need to get more creative. We need to review what we're really trying to achieve. So what we've tried to do is not this, but this. So work out the why and then move to the what, and then discuss the how, finalize the parts and discuss first steps and prioritize. One of the things, if this is your first time joining the show and tell, is you'll likely hear the 3 letters MVP. So MVP stands for minimal viable product, and the most common definition of that is a product with just enough features to satisfy early customers and provide feedback for future development. Unfortunately, sometimes a statement is misunderstood and teams think that teams are building just enough means focusing purely on functionality. However, a product or a website in this case is more than just the sum of its features. So we know as a team that we can't just release something functional and wait for the next deployment to make it usable. So rather than the pyramid on the left, where you can see the yellow highlight just highlights the functional elements, you'll see when we showcase the beta website, as well as talk through the content and the IT architecture and everything that we've done in this sprint. Hopefully you'll see that we've attempted to create something that is not only functional, but also has a slice of reliable, usable, and dare I say it, enjoyable. So that's a little bit of an introduction into my role and the work that I've been helping the team on. So just in case this is your first time joining us today, this is a show and tell. We have these show and tells every 2 weeks, and the purpose is to show progress early and often. We aim to get feedback from everyone, so not just those involved in the day-to-day work. So you'll see hopefully a chat box that is in the MS Teams feature. We encourage you, if you've got any questions, if something doesn't sound right or you want to follow up on anything, please feel free to use the chat, and one of the team members will get back to you either today or we'll follow up. We also hope to show you next steps on encourage people to get involved. So please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat at any point with any questions, feedback and ideas. And I think Kiri will have some time to monitor some questions at the very end. So we hope to get lots of questions from you today. So what are we going to be covering today? If you've joined us just late, we are going to be giving a demo into the public beta launch. So the core team are really excited about that. Juliet's going to give us a bit of an introduction into the team and the plan. Rich is going to show us the public beta demo for both the West and North sites. And we're also going to get a bit of an understanding from Chris about the approach. In the Sprint 9 achievements, we've got a few special guests. So we are going to hear from Kara from the comms team to give us a bit of an update into where comms are, and Steve Marshall is going to tell a little bit about telephony. We're hoping that you're going to participate in an audience activity. We would love to hear from you. So we've got a website launch officially on the 1st of April, and we want to know if you've got any hopes or fears that we would be able to discuss today. And then we're going to talk about potentially what's next. So what's next in Sprint 10, and reveal a bit of a preview of what the roadmap is post-vesting day. I'm going to hand over to Juliet to give us a little bit more of an intro.
I think, Connolly, just before you hand over, there's a lot of background noise. If anyone's not speaking, if they can just go on mute, because it's quite hard to hear some of the speakers.
I think actually it's Connolly's background because everyone else seems to be on mute. So I don't know, Connolly, if there's anything going on in your, yeah, there you go.
Oh, no. Sorry about that.
Maybe it's some feedback or something. That's quite strange.
It might be.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, no problem.
Thanks for being on mute.
Thanks everybody. It's really great to meet you all, even if it is a bit virtually. So thanks very much. Just wanted to give you a very quick introduction to the work and the core team. I always get the task of talking to you about the core team, and the next slide will show you some of the people that have been part of the core team of this piece of work going forward. Connie, would you move on to the next slide for me, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm not going to go through all the names on here, and you see this slide every time if you've been to our show and tells, but I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that Connolly said at the beginning. I mean, this team has worked really well together. I mean, it's obviously we've had the additional challenge of working remotely. We haven't been able to meet each other in person, and in a lot of cases we haven't met each other at all before. So, but actually, in some ways, that's helped us, and it's helped us to. We're all in, we're in this together. We need to produce the product, and we've worked really well. And I just wanted to really sort of thank everybody on the team for responding quickly, learning quickly, being part of the team, playing their different roles. For me, I'm Future Northants project manager, so my role sort of sits to one side really, and I'm working with the core team to help to deliver some of the products, and then liaising between us and the Future Northants program. It's been a fantastic learning experience for me as well. So thank you to everybody. Okay. Thank you very much. So the plan, very, very quick overview of the plan. You can see where we are now. We're on the 11th of March. So we already released 2 test sites into sort of a private beta stage, so that we've been testing them and building them up over the last few weeks. We are now at the point where we're going to release them out to the public, and we're going to release them to people within our service areas today. And then on Monday, there'll be a release, more general release to the general public, as we've mentioned. And then obviously we've got another a couple of weeks before we go live. So one of the things that we want to do in those 2 to 3 weeks is we want people internally to test them out as much as possible. And I think I'll be coming on to that in a minute in one of my slides. So public beta sites. So I'm not going to talk too much about them because you're going to see a small demo in a minute of them. So we've got the 2 sites, North Northamptonshire, South Northamptonshire, with the new branding on the sites. The sites are mobile responsive, so the size and the shape changes for your mobile devices. You can see the web addresses below. Try them out, feedback to us, and I think on my next slide I've got just the details of where we want you to feed it back to. So it's our normal customers and digital mailbox, customer and digital at northamptonshire.gov.uk. If you see any broken links, any misspellings, if the customer journey isn't clear, or you can't easily find something that you need to find from your experience of what your customers are looking for, please send it through to us. If you've got any safe and legal content that's missing, please let us know as soon as possible. We want your feedback. We really rely on your help for us to get this as best as possible on vesting day. Right. So now over to Richard. Richard, you're going to do a demo. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Julia. I think you've pretty much covered everything I was going to say there.
No.
Are you seeing my screen there, the West site?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. So this is the beta West site. This is the beta North site. So I'll flick between the 2 to show you how they're both looking. I'll scroll down the home page first, just so you can see how they appear. At the top there, we've got the header. That's the coronavirus alert. So again, that's amendable. We can change that, but that's what we've got in place at the minute. Nice big search box. Most popular tasks at the top. Again, we can change those. Big navigation section. So this is where a huge amount of the work has taken place, which I'll cover shortly. Blended in county, district and borough services. This is a bit of promotional content that after vesting day, we'll be developing these things much further. So there'll be a lot more promotional and news items on there. This is a piece of content that might only be there for the first few weeks. If any customers aren't sure whether they're part of the North or West, they can look at the map, pop a postcode in and find out which area they're from or should be in. News releases, we've just started to populate these. So again, that will start to develop after April the 1st. And then in the footer, we've got links to the social media for the new unitaries. So scroll back up to the top. That's the West site. The North is very similar. So again, the alert at the top, this is going to COVID. So click through to the COVID section. As we've said before, the majority of content and services is still going to sit on the sovereign sites. That hasn't changed. So the aim of these websites is to protect the customer journey and enable people to get back to those sovereign sites to complete the majority of those tasks as they were. So for this one, COVID, clicking through to this page, this is a list of all the support that's there for COVID. Testing people, that information was really popular. So if you click that, it will take you through to the county site. So from about the 25th of March, we're going to be starting to rebrand the sovereign sites. You'll start to see that across the county, district and boroughs. It's not going to happen in one go. There's a lot to do there. But from the 25th, you're going to start to see the colour schemes change, header change, logos change. We're hoping that'll be a little less jarring for customers as they come onto these sites and switch between the 2. So the search is working really well, but it's limited to the content we've moved over. Because we haven't moved all the content over, not every search term is going to work. The search will carry on being developed after April the 1st, and it will get better and better. But we've got a list of the top 150 keywords that get searched across county, district and boroughs, and we'll make sure that those are working and give a good result for day 1. So just as a test, blue badge, that works. Brings up the content that we've got here. Call to action will take you back through to the county site. So clicking back, council tax, same for that. So you click through, it will take you through to the council tax page. So you see the images at the top. As people refresh or come onto the site anew, that image will change each time. We've got a bank of images loaded up. as we spoke about before, the navigation. This is the big part of the work. So Stephen and David on the content team leading that have done a huge amount of work. They've said to express their thanks to the services that they've worked with and the cooperation to get the information moved over. The navigation will change post-vesting day again. We've got to link back to sovereign sites, so it can only link back to the navigation that's on those sovereign sites. So there's a lot of work still to do on that. As content moves over, this navigation will keep being developed. The top line navigation there, so the ones next to the icon, that is pretty set. That's looking really good as a combined navigation. And then the bullet points, that's not the navigation, they're just links to the top tasks in those different sections. So clicking on something like bins, recycling, street cleaning, the site is really consistent. So this is the main landing page. You'll see this throughout the site, how we've joined up the different navigation, different services. This is how we're displaying it. I'm pretty sure this is not my background noise. I'm pretty sure you can all hear this. So if anyone is listening to this and not on mute, please put yourself on mute. This is like multitasking at an airport, trying to do this and listen to the background. So bin collection day, popular district and borough service. This is what customers will see. If they're from the Corby area and they know that, they'll click through to Corby. Again, that'll be rebranded on the 25th. Different logos, different colour scheme. If they're not sure where they are, that's better, that's a bit easier. They can pop their postcode in. And this is the Wellingborough postcode. So again, takes you through to the Wellingborough bin collection information. So that is a consistent journey for the majority of district and borough services. We've tested it, we've done huge amounts of user testing with Fiona and Susan, and feedback's been really good. Customers have hardly noticed that they've gone to a different site, so that's positive. We've got a bit of content there at the bottom, just explaining why the information is on a different website. So right-hand side, different pages in the section. So again, very consistent, bulky item collection, missed bin collections. The journey is going to be exactly the same. And then if it was for, say, recycling centres, this is a county service. Again, a little bit of content, call to action, and a link back through to the county site. You can see the breadcrumb trail at the top. Nice and easy for people to click back onto that landing page and then back to the home page. So it is really set up nice and simply, user tested. People have found it very easy to use, easy to find the information, which is the key thing about what a website should be. So just looking at some further information, I'm going to show you the birthdays and marriages. This is a service that has moved over. This is split for vesting day, the majority anyway. So again, you can see consistent landing page. If you look at, say, the Corby registration office, all the information's there. I think this has now been signed off by the service. So you've got a call to action where you can book an appointment, and that will link through to the new appointment booking system for vesting day.
It definitely said muted on there.
Yeah. Richard, just bear with me. I'm going to mute everyone, and then can you unmute yourself, because I can't work out where it's coming from. It just might be a little bit easier.
Yep.
1 second.
Right, I've started talking, so hopefully you can still hear me. So yeah, that's the order a birth certificate. Again, that's got a call to action at the bottom to be able to order and pay for your certificate. And again, you can see that page is on the right, breadcrumb trail at the top, nice and easy to use. So I'll flick back onto the west just to show some current information and current news that I'm sure everyone will be interested in. Councillors, I think all the councils, we all use something like a CMIS, Councillor Management System. That will be replaced by modern.gov. It's not likely to be there for day one, so the team have created just some holding pages, just some basic content regarding councillor contact details. So for Daventry, this list is there. So if anyone does search for their councillor, they'll be able to find this information. And once modern.gov comes online around May, we'll plug into that and we'll be linking to that site. And then with elections coming up, I think this content is almost signed off, probably still needs a little bit more to do. Just some information there about how people can vote, they need to do, the dates and the deadlines, things like that. So that information is all up to date and current. So that is pretty much it. What we really want you to do is to go and navigate around this site and play with it and like Juliet says, feedback to the customer and digital email address. Safe and legal is the key. It's not nice it is anymore with 2 or 3 weeks to go. Purely is safe and legal. If there's anything on there that you see, we really want your feedback on it. So just to show the mobile side of it, mobile responsive, as you'd expect, it's been designed with mobile first in mind. This site is really quick. That's the most important thing. Obviously mobile responsive, but there's no code in there behind the scenes. No erroneous cookies. This site is going to work really fast for you. You can see the feedback button there. That's mainly for the public to use when we go to the public beta next week. So the services, we really want you to use that, the email address that Juliet mentioned earlier. So it gives us a great foundation. This isn't the end. This is just the start really to get us to vesting day. There's a huge amount of work to do after that to transform the councils, migrate systems and content from all our sites onto these 2 new platforms. This project's going to be huge. So we're all going to be working together for quite a long time to come. But this gives us a great foundation. If you ever use the gov.uk site, it's very similar to that. Really quick, lean, fast, easy to find the information. And as we start to look at services like libraries, country parks, tourism, those ones that maybe are more engaging and want a more visual feel, we'll be developing the templates more. So what you see today isn't the final picture. And if there's a need for, say, things like microsites to be built that are then custom looks, custom developed, we'll be having those kind of conversations. So we hope you're really proud of it. This is a site for you all to display your services and promote what you do to the public. So we just hope that we've done you proud and done you justice. And we look forward to working with you in the future. I think it's over to Chris next to talk about the design side.
Hey, yeah. So I'm going to be talking just a bit about the approach to the actual website build. Here we go. Cool. So yeah, I won't go into too much detail because this may bore a lot of people. But this is kind of a map to show what the current websites look like behind the scenes. So at the bottom, we have the content management system. So the content editors have access to feed information into these content management systems built on Drupal, if you're interested. This is then sent up to the front end. So the front end packages everything up. It pulls from the CMS, and in the future, any kind of APIs or anything that we might be using will be pulled into this front end and packaged up. In the middle, you can see is the design system. So essentially, what we have is a React component based design system, which allows us to build components that can be utilized by either the North or the West. But we can set a theme, so they can look different. They can have different content. They can be completely different if we wanted to. But the base framework is all built on the same design system, allowing us to really easily develop things for both sites. And then up the top, obviously, a user can go to the website and access these. Go to the next slide. So taking this a step further back, if you imagine what we just saw is in that middle square, the 2 unitary websites. So that's the Drupal backend, the search, and the front end of everything you can see. What sits around that is all of the additional things that we're using. So as I mentioned, with APIs, we have the postcode checker. So we're pulling information from that postcode checker in order to display onto the front end. As shown, we're sending you back to the sovereign sites at the bottom. We have firm step forms. So wherever there's a form, we'll be pushing people out to there. As Richard mentioned, Modern Gov will be hosting all the councillors and the meeting notes and everything like that. And then we also have payment systems. So yeah, this shows all of those things around it. So finally, one thing to talk about is so browser support. So at the moment, we are supporting everything you can see on the left. So focusing on on modern browsers and all future browsers. They're yeah, there will be possibly some issues with older and out-of-date browsers, things like Internet Explorer, the old versions of IE. The website should still work, but there may be some issues in general with it. But we will be continuing to kind of improve and iterate as we go. And finally, just to talk about you may have heard the word beta thrown around. We're doing public beta, private beta. So previously we've been doing a private beta, which has been much more focused on a closed, small, invite-only group of participants, and these people have been recruited. We've been focused really on doing all the research with them, whereas public beta is going to be much wider. So it's open. The research is going to be slightly different. We're going to be focusing on the feedback and on analytics of how people are using the site. And yeah, you can. So the next thing we're going to talk about is achievements from this sprint. I'll pass you over to Cara.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. So I will just give you a really brief rundown on the campaign that's running, and obviously how the kind of the website fits into this. So I mean, I always say, sort of in terms of the core messages that the sort of residents and business awareness campaign is trying to get across, there's sort of really three things. First and foremost, let people know that the councils are changing and that West and Northants are coming. And the messaging around this has been, kind of really clear. It's from April the 1st, as kind of already mentioned, which is visible on the websites. We're trying to help clarify if people, West Northants and Northants doesn't necessarily mean anything to anyone. So we're using these maps to kind of help people understand like how that geographic split works and and where, with regards to their former councils, where their new council now will be, or what their new council now will be. And obviously trying to get the new logos and kind of branding out there. One of the other core things about the campaign is to try and reassure people that services will continue without interruption, that, street lights aren't going to go off, your bins won't stay uncollected and those sorts of things. So that real sense of reassurance. And then the third thing, and obviously pertinent to this sort of conversation, is about sharing the new contact details for the councils. So all of the kind of ads and comms and press that we've put out there has got the new phone numbers, the new web addresses, and those are really prominent, in the advertisements that we've got out there and running. So just to kind of, I guess, run through some of what those channels are, without going into a huge amount of detail, there's kind of a multi-channel approach. Different people absorb information in different ways, so we're trying to hit them in lots of different kind of manners. And I've kind of broken it here into kind of the free channels that we can use, so all the things that the council already kind of owns, amongst the 8 different councils. So there's the residents magazines, there's our social media channels, there's the contact centres, which are starting to put messages out there, there's the town and parish councils, there's local press, we've been doing a lot of PR, and there's leaflets which are going out, which I guess must be hitting around about now with council tax bills. So you can see just to the right there an example of the West Northants leaflet, which is going out to all sort of residents in the West Northants area with their council tax bill, to let them know what's coming, and again to provide some of that reassurance and some of the messaging around contact details, etc. We've also got some quite large, I suppose, paid advertising. So there's ads going out on the radio, on the back of buses and the sides of buses, on bus shelters and supermarket kind of in-town totems, and also on the side of some of the bin lorries, which are going around the various different sovereign borough councils. So, kind of this gives you a sense of when the activity is happening, and you can see some of it backdates right the way back to kind of January, February, but really the core activity, unsurprisingly, is in March and is in the build up to vesting day. And the point here, I guess, is that activity is well and truly begun, and the ads started to go live from March the 1st. And so those web addresses are already out there in sort of external content and comms and ads. So this is just to give you a sense of if anyone actually punches in northnorthants.gov.uk or West Northants, and they will actually land on a holding page which tells them like, hey, you've reached the right place, you know, welcome to North Northamptonshire or welcome to West Northamptonshire. But for the moment, these websites aren't live. So if you need to contact your council, please go to, and then pointing them back to the sovereign borough councils. But as I said, sort of making the point that as of April the 1st, this will be the place, you've reached the right place, and this will be where the councils are now kind of living and breathing online. And so just as a final thing, hopefully you've seen some of these things out there, but these are just some of the examples of that kind of West and North branding. So on the left, you can see a couple of the kind of posters and ads that are out there. This kind of say hello to your new council is sort of the strap line that we're using, I suppose you'd say. And then that obviously sort of spills across. You can see on the top right there, social media, and then also where we need to do, you know, where possible, we've split West and North separately, but the example with that sort of turquoise banner there is the back of buses, where obviously they drive right the way across the county. So there we sort of used the map and showed both sides of the how the county splits with West and North. So that's just a bit of a summary about where the websites are being promoted. And I will move on to, I believe it's Steve, for an update on the telephony as well.
Thank you, Cara. Make sure I turn on my camera. Yeah, so I've been asked just to give a bit of an update on the telephone project, which is a bit of a sister project to the websites. I'm a member of both project teams, so you may have unfortunately seen my face on the earlier slide, but I've also been the BA leading on the telephony. So similar to the websites project, you know, we had the issue of joining all of these various authorities together into a cohesive kind of customer journey, and so that there's plenty of similarities in the work that we've been doing. But essentially what is happening here is that each new authority will have their own distinct telephone number, which will replace the existing mains that are used to reach customer service teams. And I put some back office teams there just to say that because there is such a kind of a difference between the locations as to what services are offered by customer services and which services actually just deal with their own phone calls, there was the need to point calls to both places in some locations. And when I talk about the existing main contact numbers, I'm talking, yeah, so each authority has one kind of distinct main number that either routes through to what we call IVR, and I'll just explain that more in a second, or goes through to an operator stroke switchboard who diverts calls to the right place. We'll be setting up diverts from each of those existing main numbers to the relevant unitary line, and that will go live from 8 a.m. on the 1st of April. Oh, just back one, sorry. Thank you. So yeah, what we've done is we've designed and built, I say, a new IVR. So for those of you who aren't familiar with an IVR, stands for, I think, interactive voice response, but it's basically just the menu that you hear when you call any sort of large organisation. It's for use both for the customers to be able to navigate to where they need to go, but also for that organisation to be able to kind of just organise their own calls into different departments and make sure that they can route to the right place. In this case, the challenge really was to be able to funnel customers to the correct service and location, bearing in mind what I said before about all these different authorities coming together, not necessarily offering the same services in each location. So it's a bit of a challenge. As a result of those challenges, I don't think there's any way to kind of ignore the fact that some customers may experience a longer wait time than they've been used to, certainly in those areas where they got through to an operator. And when I say longer than they've used to, I mean in order to actually hear a live human voice. Clearly, though, we'll monitor that ongoing, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure that we do react to feedback. The reason we know there are longer wait times, well, it was kind of acutely obvious from the design process. However, we have now built them and we've tested them. So the testing sort of ran last week. There's just a bit more to do on the out of hours in the north of the county, but we're very happy with how that's gone. It's been a big success, certainly from a technical point of view. All the numbers that we were given point to the right place, and it's great that that kind of the difficult aspect of it has been done. So out of hours, just to briefly touch on this, because the customer services opening hours have been aligned across all the different current opportunities. From there'll be 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. each weekday. There's 2 exceptions to this which are listed there. In the West, if you ring after 5 p.m. Or at weekends, you will hear basically the same menu structures you hear during the day. But in the North, they decided to go with an entirely separate menu. That more kind of that's just to do with the intricacies of how out of hours operations work in the 2 areas. And then when will this go live? That's 8, as I said, 8 a.m. on the 1st of April 21, and that's when the first lines go live. So where I mentioned there that 9 a.m. is the operating hours, but because in Kettering they offer the blood appointments line from 8 a.m. that's when we'll go live on the number. People won't be able to get through to customer services until 9, but the new numbers that say welcome to Northamptonshire West will be live from 8 a.m. And just quickly finish off, I mean, it's important for me as someone that's been involved in both projects to really recognise the importance of customer service teams when it comes to the website, because when you've got a customer on the line and you need to find out a bit of information about the authority, the website is your go-to really, alongside any of the training materials you have. So linking the 2 together has been very key. Thank you. I believe I'm passing on to Kiri now.
Yes, hello. So rebranding, I'm kind of taking a bit of credit for Lawrence here, because these are his mock-ups, but I'll tell you about a specific part of rebranding at the moment, because right now we're going through some UAT testing for some changes for our existing websites. So Richard mentioned earlier that obviously we want a seamless experience between the websites that exist now and our 2 new websites. So if you look at the picture on the bottom left, and let's imagine we all live in Wellingborough for a second, this is the website we're used to. Say we went to find out about our bins on the 1st of April. At the moment we'd see this, and we'd see our Wellingborough logo, which of course wouldn't be right because the council wouldn't exist by that point. So what we're doing, if you look at the picture on the right, is just some very subtle tweaks in the sort of flavour of the look and feel. So this is mainly done via the header. So we have the Northamptonshire Council logo, as you can see, top left, and a green bar across the top telling people, you know, we're now part of the Northamptonshire Council, but Wellingborough area is underneath. So people who are familiar with these pages won't feel too disorientated. They'll still be able to signpost to the things that they need. And then going forwards, these kind of home pages will become less and less used as people start getting used to transitioning between the 2 and use the new websites more, because more content will be carried over and created in those spaces. So this is the example for Wellingborough. We've got eight councils to do this for. Some of them are looked after in-house. For example, the Daventry site, Mike Clipson's been changing, and the NCC site, which the web team look after. But this is, we've now moved on to Kettering. So Kettering and the 3 we're looking at now are being delivered by Jadu. So this week we've just kind of looking at what they look like in UAT and making sure they all work properly, or they all work as expected. So these 2 look probably there's the most amount of contrast, and that's because if you notice, there's a red bar bottom left and a black bar top right, and that's because if we kept the red bar, it just looks a bit not very aesthetically pleasing. So a bit of a change there, but not too much. If we go to the next slide, please. So we have encountered a couple of problems, things that we haven't noticed, which is what testing is all about. So if you see in the background, we've still got the East Northants logo there. So that's something we're going to go back and flag up. There's also some differences in spacing. And we do have a fun problem, which we're playing with at the moment, whereas if you look at the Northamptonshire logo, this is the image in the top right, at the moment, when you click this logo, we go back to the home of the existing sites. Now, it's split between users as to whether they would expect to land there or to land in the north. So we're kind of having some discussions around that, around how we make the best and sort of most user-friendly version for people to understand and get around. So yeah, that is what we've been dealing with this week. It's quite fun. And this is over to Kevin, but he's just messaged me to say that his power has gone down in his house. So Kevin, are you back yet?
I am back, just
back.
So I am
all right then. I'll hand over to you then. I was about to just make it all up. All right, over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, so Chris warned you earlier about the design system being very boring. I'm about to talk about the IT setup, which is probably worse, but we'll keep it brief, so hopefully you won't fall asleep. So the website, our job in IT is purely to keep the website up and running so it doesn't go offline and you can all use it. We're setting the bar high. We are going out on a limb and saying it's never going to go down. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to have multiple copies of the website spread all over the world. So if any copy of the website goes down, there should be another, I think there's a dozen in total. There should be another 11 websites that can be used. So nobody should see the website go down is what we're proposing. What we're actually got in terms of what we're being held to, it's 99.99% of the time it's going to be up, which gives us 8 minutes a year that we're allowed to have it down before I get fired. So very, very high bar that we're working to, but we're confident we can do it. In terms of how we're actually going to support it, so Kiri has created a lovely, very clear SLA document that holds us to account. I'm hoping it's open enough to interpretation that I won't be fired if it goes down, but we'll see about that. And then if there are problems in terms of what we call the disaster recovery, we have automated monitoring of the websites. If there's any issue with the website, technically, we get notified of it, hopefully long before anyone out in the real world actually spots a problem. And we will have a team available within the council that are going to be on 24-hour call out to fix any problems that we have with the website. And then we move on to load testing. Now, load testing, best described, we have a horde of little robots that we send to the website to replicate customers using it. So long before we open it on the 1st of April, we will send these hordes of robots at the website just to check it can cope with the hopefully hundreds of thousands of people that come and use the website, just so we can be sure that when it goes live on the 1st of April, it doesn't slow down. And then lastly, we have penetration testing, as it's called, which as far as I'm concerned is the most exciting role to have. We pay people to hack our websites. So we pay a private company to go out there and try and break our website, do every technique they can possibly do to try and take it offline. And then they produce a report back for us that then the IT team have to take away and learn from and apply whatever fixes that they recommend. So there you go. That's a 1 minute update on IT, and hopefully you're all still awake.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to very briefly go through a couple of content slides, but we're tight on time, so forgive me if I race through. So the two sites in total have over 800 pages now, which is huge, and that is down to Stephen and David's tenacity and just work that they've done. It's been an enormous amount of work, and that's a huge amount of content to get onto any website. So that's great, and that covers more than 20 services now. And one of the reasons they've been able to do it is that, as Richard said earlier, that it's been like a really good working working process with the services. People have been really cooperative and helpful, and that's been great. We'll be continuing to add and refine content up to vesting day and then beyond, of course, as well. But what you see there now, we're still working on. One of the biggest gaps at the moment is the privacy notices. There are still lots of those to come in, but the deadline is today, so I'm sure that that's no problem at all, because they'll all arrive by 5 o'clock. The elections page, I don't really need to talk about this because you showed it earlier, which is great, but this is one of the areas that we were going to quickly highlight because it's obviously quite current. Most of the elections information is on there. It's still a bit of a work in progress. There's still stuff to do. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, this might be something that gets linked to from the news banner that we showed earlier, or maybe a news article. And David suggested some shout outs to some of the team there to help make this happen. In terms of where we go next, so this is not just the next 2 or 3 weeks, but just going forward, obviously continue to migrate content across to the new sites and to flesh out these pages, which at the moment are linking to the sovereign sites, and to start developing a first iteration of a strategy, so a document and a strategy that says who does what and how things work. We're going to build on our core documents too, so we have our content principles, style guides, standard words to help make sure that it's consistent whenever people come to add content to the site. And part of that will also be an element of training, which I'm sure we'll do some in-person stuff, but we can also do screencasts and things like that. There's a bit about the content management process here. This is, I guess, important for those of you who might be working with it, with the site in the future, but we have a simple interim process. Any new MVP content, email the web teams, those addresses are to come, and then changes and updates to the sovereign websites. It's a case of contacting the web team leads in sovereign areas, as you currently do, and then that will get forwarded to the correct shared mailboxes. I've essentially just read that, but there you go. And I think that's it. Yeah, so it's over to Robert for an accessibility update.
Cheers. Not what to report here from last time. Really, the automated tests still continuing to look good. Checks are run weekly with content issues picked up and fixed, with non-content issues reported back to the developers to look at. There's been no movement on the L&D accessibility course over this sprint, but I should have more details on the rollout of this for 2 weeks' time. And we're still waiting for confirmation of the start date from the Shore Trust on the manual accessibility check, which is anticipated to be the first week in April. So I'll hand over to Sue now for user testing.
Thank you very much for that. I'm just going to talk very briefly because we've not got much time left. But what I would say is, if you think about what Richard described at the very beginning, all of that we've tested with our user researchers who we've actually invited to join. The dates or the scores on the doors at the moment is we've done 204 people have signed up, 45 staff, 747 residents and 12 members. We've done 39 interviews as of today and more are coming. 5 staff, 1 resident and 3 councillors. And as from next week, we're really hitting up on the councillor side. Our democratic services colleagues actually sent a write out to all of the councillors, and we've had a really good response. We're also going to be gathering feedback on the public beta, which is going to be going out by email, and this will be for the unmoderated testing. And I think that's about us from us, other than the feedback has been very good. Everyone loves the sites and really excited about vesting day arriving on the 1st of April. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Just to give a very brief update on the progress of the e-forms. So obviously, I think I wasn't here at the start of the call, so I'm not sure if Richard mentioned this, but when you do look at the websites and run through to test, you might find that some of the links to the forms don't work. That's obviously just because we're keeping the links off of the website until the 1st of April, just to prevent any customers from completing the forms thinking that they're live. So just to give a brief update, the MVP forms that I think you've probably seen, they're currently being tested through the means of user testing with Sue, Fiona and Ale, and we're also sending them over to the service areas to test so that they can see that they're fit for purpose from their side. Just a couple of examples there. So that list isn't limited just to those, but yeah, just to give you a couple of examples of some of the forms that we've built and are pretty much there, really ready to go for the 1st of April. We're also just finalising any sort of form requests that have kind of come out in the last week or so, just to get an understanding of what the requirements are. And also there again, just to plug my email, if anyone has any form queries, please just drop me an email through that, please. And then if you could just move on to the next slide, just to show you really some of the forms that we've put together. So this is the North and the West contact us forms here. And then if we go on to the next slide, this is a screenshot of the direct debit form. So this direct debit form, just to clarify, is specific to paying an invoice of sundry debt. So obviously we're aware that direct debits on the district and borough sites are staying as they are for day one. This is just specifically for sundry debt. And then the final screenshot is the copy certificates form. So just to show you really what they'll look like, what to expect for day one. And that's everything from me. I guess it's now on to the group activity, which I think is run by Ale.
Are we doing this then, Con?
I think so. I think we can spend 4 minutes on it.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to copy and paste here the code. And here is the question. Now, I would like you to think about your hopes and fears related to the new websites on vesting day. If you can go on the link that I just put, the Menti, the code is the one you can find in there. Really think about, once vesting day is here, what are your hopes and what are you dreading it might happen in case? And we're talking specifically about the website. Not everything else that is going on, because this is the website project. Okay, let's wait. Nobody's there yet, but I got to go now. Bye, Fiona. Yeah, thank you. Here you go. Everyone is able, I'm going to read some of them in the meantime. Everyone is able to quickly find the content they need with no disruption to their journey. Yes, a smooth journey, easy to use, no complaints, links to work. Yes, customers like it. We get less phone calls, good reviews, or God reviews. I think it's good. God. Clear and it was from day one. Low number of inquiries from customer about where to find things, good reviews and comments on Twitter and Facebook. People don't get the two Northants mixed up. Yes, well presented. We'll have access to update ourselves as web authors. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case for vesting day, but it's something that we're going to have a plan towards. Looks clear, people can find what they need easily, doesn't crash, smooth customer journey, no disruption for customers and staff, easy access, good search functions. On the search, actually, if you go on the websites and there's something you look up for and the results that you see don't work for you, they don't actually show up the thing you were after, then you will see a survey popping up asking you, did you find what you were looking for? And if it's not, it's going to ask you what are the keywords you used. And this is very much a survey for us to gather more keywords so that we can improve the search function. So bear with us while we make the search even better.
Ale, I'm going to switch to the next slide. I can see there's 34 people. Please continue to enter your content. We'll be able to see this. And if you think of anything else, I think it's going to be up for another 7 days. So it's something that the project team are really keen to reflect on what you're hoping for, so we can strive for that. But we're just going to move, and Ale, I'll let you
I just
discuss.
Another hope that was interesting, that Kevin doesn't get fired. Let's see how that one goes.
Did Kevin write that? That's the question. So next one should hopefully pop up on your phones.
No fears.
No one's there yet. So anything that could be worrying you about the website launch specifically, please feel free to enter. Oh yeah, there you go, Ale. Over to you.
Customers get frustrated and we are inundated with calls. Confused customers, payment links are not clear to the customers, press feedback, increased call. I mean, it's the other side of the coin, right? For the hope if it goes bad, this is what could happen. Confused customers are not able to find what they want easily. The system crashes. Poor accessibility on documents. Customers don't get the change. To sovereign sites. Payments are not transferred to the correct authorities. I think that is going to be sorted, right, Lucy and David? I think no phone calls and Steve hard work has gone to waste.
We've got the giggles. We've been working so hard for the public beta. Sorry, team. I'm going to hand over back to Chris. Team, please continue to keep adding to this. We will revisit it again next week. The links should still be open for 7 days. I really appreciate the 13 people that added to the fears, and thank you to the 34, I think, people that helped with the hopes. Chris, I'm hopefully going to share my screen. Is that working?
Yeah, so not much time, but what we're doing next. So sprint 10. Obviously, this is one of the last sprints leading up to vesting day. So the focus is on must-haves for vesting day. Obviously, we've just launched the public beta, so research will be focused more on public beta. That's monitoring feedback, analyzing and testing that. Content, design, yeah, it's all there. We don't have much time, so I'll move on. Just to point to this as well, we've been working on a roadmap for everything that's going to be continued after vesting day. So vesting day, yes, it's a major milestone, but actually there's tons more to do going forwards, and we will be continuing to iterate and add features and everything. And yeah, as we usually say, if you've been here before, but if you want to keep up to date, there's the next show and tell on the screen right now. There's Thursday, 25th of March. There in Spark, there's all the sprint notes from each of the sprints, and yeah, there's more testing, and just test the public beta, I think, would be great. Any questions for anyone that can stay for a minute?
Sorry, everyone.
That's the best show and tell to date. I just wanted to share that. That's good news. Good work, team.
Thanks, everyone. That's great.
Kiri, was there any key questions in the chat or that came through, or any comments that we should reflect on?
I think actually most of them have been answered as we've been going along. People have been chipping in. There's nothing outstanding that I can see.
Someone's asked a question about the pop-up messages, which I do appreciate, because if you can't make a meeting, they pop up all the time. So we'll try and find out why that happens and post some feedback in this channel as well. So you'll get the pop-up. Thank you.
Did you notice how many people were on the call?
Over 100.
Ale, you mentioned 134?
130 we picked. We've reached as demo.
Good.
That's incredible. It's so good to have so many people as excited, hopefully, as all of us, even though Kevin and Chris, you say your work's boring, but I'm sure there's people who are just come to this just to hear all about that, the design system and about the IT infrastructure. So you'll be surprised what makes people excited these days.
I was very nicely told that whilst I was talking, 3 people left.
Oh, bless
Only
you.
3, that's a record.
Exactly. I'm impressed that the rest stay around.
So are we still recording, or do we say who's behind you then, Kevin?